Incidentally, just in case you don't know, Evertonians still don't know the result of this appeal. And I think it's now beyond a joke, is it not?
Well, it depends. I mean,
Simon, they play again this weekend, for God's sake,
So
and
what?
they go into it not knowing if 10 points is going to be reduced, and if so, by what?
But again, we can't keep re-emphasising this point. Their fate at this moment in time has been sealed on 10 points. It only gets better. So if they start from the standpoint, which most sensible people would suggest is the thought process you need to adopt, those 10 points have gone. If we get anything back, it's a bonus. Whether we like the unfairness, whether Andy Burnham wants to run around engaging in social media rather than coming on shows like this where we can have a valid discussion with somebody that might know what he's talking about, you are in that situation. You're fourth from bottom in the league. You've got a goal difference of 10 above Luton. You're in control of your own destiny. Luton have no more games in hand over you. You have almost an extra set of points because of the goal difference between the two sides. If you do your jobs, you will stay in the Premier League. And then we can have the argument about the unfairness of the penalty. But right now, the only thing that happens as a result of this is they get a bigger lifeline. But they've got their own lifeline. They're in control of their own destiny. And whilst it's not ideal...
But just keep on winning games. Win games.
Yeah. So let's get it right. If they go and get 3 points handed back, and then they lose the next 3 games and win the next 2, what difference is that going to make? Okay, they've got 3 points. The destiny is they've got to win games on the pitch, be better than they were on Monday against Crystal Palace. And I think they're perfectly capable of doing that. And whilst there is a thought process which says, yes, you can suggest that people are circulating documents for typos. I'm so bloody stupid. The bottom line is the appeal process takes whatever time it takes. It's much more streamlined than it's ever been before. It's much more effective in outcomes than it has been before. And it will come relatively shortly.
So all right, just before we leave this, the outcome of the appeal will now be known, correct?
Sooner rather than later. Yeah.
No, it will be known now by those who have come to a decision.
I don't know. I'm not in the.
Surely,
I'm not in the circulation.
We're not
group.
reinventing the wheel, Simon. They either reduce it or they don't.
Well,
and they have a considerable period of time to do it.
Well, they've. When was the appeal heard? In January.
Yeah.
Right. So we're in the third week of February now. So most situations like this would be dealt with and circulated within a month, and that's probably what will happen.
Is there much to debate? I don't think so.
Depends what they've considered and did they make the decision on the day. If we assume it's a straight line, that Everton went in there with no new evidence, by the way, because they're not going to hear anything different, right? All they're asking for is clemency, right? They're submitting new evidence.
That's right.
The facts are settled.
Yeah.
You are guilty. You've copped to it. There's no debate. What we're arguing about now is whether we're prepared to reduce it. So they'll advance their arguments and they'll go away and consider it. Now, if we're suggesting it's not a jury, it's a selection of individuals that will take it away and adjudicate it over a period of time. Now, if they've adjudicated on the day, which they won't have done, they will have had various meetings there and afterwards. Yeah, listen, in an ideal world, you'd like to think it's done as quickly as possible.
February.
So what? So what? Things take time.
You might scoff at this, but Everton midfielder James Garner said yesterday it was playing on his mind. It's playing in the player's mind. Now, you might scoff at that.
Shut up.
Not shut up. And what about the Evertonians?
Shut up.
Hang on a second. What about the Evertonians who are paying good... Hang on. Who are paying good money to travel to Brighton this weekend?
I'll have that argument with you.
Should they be travelling all the way down there thinking, we still don't know the result of this appeal, do we?
I'll have that argument and debate and accept that point, that the Everton fans will feel it. Do not tell me that the institutionally, clinically unaware, wrapped up in their own lives footballers are sitting there going, well, actually, we're troubled by it, right? Rubbish. Do your job. Maybe if you hit the target a few more times on Monday, Garner, you might have put your team in a situation where they were way outside the bottom.
He says, I understand the frustration because I'm frustrated myself.
Really? Okay. The point is...
It plays on my mind.
Yes.
What's wrong with that? Who are you to say that it's not playing in his mind?
Well, I'm not anyone to say it. I'm suggesting, knowing the character and the attitude of footballers, not all of them, granted, not necessarily Everton ones.
Good, you're doubling down.
And their motivation is pretty much about themselves. Is my paycheck all right at the end of the month? Yes, then I'm all right, Jack. Sorry, I know it's a very cynical view, and people will turn around and say it's the musings of a failed football club owner and his vantage point.
No.
The point is that I find that silly. Football players are locked up in a little island on their own.
What about the fans travelling to Brighton?
The fans I will absolutely empathise with.
Yeah.
But we are also living in a world now where we've moved from what took... I'm not suggesting it's great, but the sophistication and the refining of the system is moving to a far more comprehensive way of operating. I would expect the result to come out relatively shortly. I didn't expect to hear it until the end of February. And if it goes past the end of February, I mean, there's no reason for holding it up. And also, if you're not privy to in the entire process, if you're not privy to how the thing is held together and why it's taking a period of time, because no one's going to be sitting on their hands going, "Oh, let's keep the idiots in suspense." No one's going to be sat there going, "Oh, I know what we'll do this week. Let's make sure that Everton are kept on their tenterhooks." There will be reasons, and it might be simply that individual members of the panel weren't available at certain times to be able to get together to adjudicate their decision. It might be that Everton and whoever else they're providing the manuscripts to in terms of the scenario
in
need to have
time.
certain things. Look, it goes towards conspiracy theory mentality. Why would anybody delay the inevitable? What is the benefit? Who are you benefiting by doing that?
Well, that's the question.
Are they in cohorts with Luton and Burnley and whoever else is in the bottom three, Sheffield United? Is that what they're doing?
And this is exactly what it encourages. Here's Rob, who's a Leicester City fan. Everton admitted cheating and they got punished. What's wrong with it? Stop trying to justify cheating. You're making yourself look very biased this morning, Jim, but there's no shot there. No, not at all. I think, and you've conceded this fact, the supporters who pay good money to travel a long distance and back at the weekend to Brighton should know. Because what's the conversation in the bus away down at the South Coast? What do you think we're going to get? We still haven't heard from these individuals.
Fine, but that's conversation. And if Everton get relegated, then their supporters will still be there, won't they? It's not the end of the world, is it?
No.
Bigger football clubs have been relegated. Aston Villa got relegated and came back up again.
Good to know.
Well, it's good to know. It'd be in an ideal world, you'd know when you decide that people should know, but in the real world, it doesn't work that way.
While you're in this boisterous mood, parachute payments, EFL want parachute payments scrapped as part of the new deal for football.
Yes.
They argue that it makes it harder for other clubs to compete.
Does it?
The Premier League wants to retain them to help relegated teams cope with the severe drop-off in revenue.
Do they?
But then when you break it down, so look at who's leading the way. In the Championship at the moment, the top four, Leicester, Leeds, Ipswich, Southampton. And Leicester, Leeds and Southampton very much benefiting from those parachute payments.
Indeed they are.
Teams that are relegated after one season in the Premier League currently get 44 million quid.
Indeed they do.
In their first season back in the EFL and 35 million in year two.
And why is that?
It's good to flop, isn't it?
Well,
if they had spent more than a season in the top flight, they get a year three top up of 15 million. It's not bad, is it?
Altogether about 100 million quid. Right?
Should they be getting it?
Well, okay, so what's the alternative? The alternative is go into the Premier League, not be prepared to have a go, get relegated, maintain the status quo of the guys that stay in there. How about Sunderland, Watford, Middlesbrough, Cardiff, Birmingham, West Brom, Hull, Coventry, Norwich, Stoke, QPR, all sitting in the Championship, not going automatically back up again? How about that statistic? It's not a given that the balance of probability is that the teams that come down, because they come down with better players and better squads, they also come down with enormous wage bills that need some sort of solution to it. I've had this conversation at length with Rick Parry, and I said to him, "You got a bloody source. You were the architect for the parachute payments." And of course, the parachute payments have now gotten to a different scale because the cost of football's got to a different scale. So what's the choice? Up you go to the Premier League and go, well, I'll tell you what, I can't really spend £50 million on wages, because if I do that and I've got to carry his wages down, I'm banging trouble because I'm getting 6 million quid from TV deals or 7 or 8 million quid from TV deals in the Championships. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go up to the Premier League, offer no real resistance, stink the place up, go back down again, and the status quo will be maintained by those that stay in the Premier League, and of course they'll be happy with that.
But that's virtually what's happening already with a couple of the teams.
Well, it's not, because I've just listed 10 of the teams in the Championship that have been in the Premier League that have gotten relegated, that haven't bounced back up with parachute payments. The fact that Leicester, the Premier League champions, and Leeds United, that have got huge crowds, huge support, wealthy owners, and are able to sell some of their assets at the same time as manage their wage bill. It's not an argument about parachute payments in real terms. It's an argument about the distribution of monies into the pyramid. You've currently got 9% of UK revenues going to 72 sides. You've got 91% going to 20 sides. There should be a better distribution mechanism to increase the amount of money that they get, which is clearly the deal that's going to be leveraged out of the Premier League by either the independent regulator or a deal to nobble the independent regulator's input before he gets in the door or she gets in the door. There has to be parachute payments, but there also has to be an increase in the distribution. So if you increase the distribution so everybody gets more money in the Championship, League One and League Two, then of course you can reduce the parachute payments because the disparity isn't so wide. Now
we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm always for that. I'm for that. I'm absolutely for that. But it's moment in time.
How can you get 44 million in your first season back in the EFL?
Well, because you're carrying a wage bill that's twice or double or 3 times the cost implications. Now, here's the commercial reality. Up goes...
Luton are managing the finances very well, aren't they?
How do you do that then?
How do you do it?
You don't. You get relegated. You go up, you get relegated. And of course, the 17 teams in the Premier League that are already there, which require 14 to maintain the quorum, we're going to be happy with that perspective. Albeit the 14 are thinking to themselves, well, we don't want to vote against parachute payments because we could be one of those teams that gets relegated, so we need that safety net too. The longer you stay in the Premier League, the bigger your wage bill is going to do. So if you stay in the Premier League for 5 or 6 years, right, and you're competing in the Premier League, and by that time now, you've got players on 3 or 4 year contracts because you're an established Premier League club, you've got an £80 million wage bill, what the hell are you going to do when you get relegated?
Well, how about changing the players' contracts? It's all about, the players get so much money in wages.
Okay. Tell me how that works when you're confronted with a player that's got other football clubs that are going to buy that player, that are comfortable that they're...
Because they sign a contract, Simon, that says this is what you learn when you're in the Premier League. If you drop to the Championship, that regrettably is what you learn.
And that's wonderful. And what you'll get is the crumbs off the table of players that other clubs don't want to sign, right? So the players that value themselves go, oh yeah, I'm not signing that contract. I'm a Premier League player. I'll sign Premier League wages, but there's no way. Well, hang on. You'll be part of a team that gets relegated. That's fine. I'm not signing for you on that basis. So the commercial reality is far more stringent than the idealism of suggesting, well, just tell the players, like John Majewski used to say in Football League meetings, I'd like to have a clause that automatically reduces players' wages by 70% every time they get relegated. Well, good luck with that, John, once you've come out of the wardrobe with the lion and the witch and whatever else is there. When the PFA get their 2 pence in and ultimately footballers decide that they're not going to accept that, you'll have nobody. You'll have people from the dog and duck playing for you.
What do you do about the parachute payments then? Modify it for me. What do you do?
I think as long as you get the distribution right in terms of the pyramid payments, and I think that what should be paid into the EFL is 20% of UK revenues. Currently what's happening is the broadcast deal that the EFL's got now is about £200 million a season between 72 clubs, and with solidarity payments being kicked down by the Premier League. The reasons why those solidarity payments were put in there in the first place is because they pillaged the EFL by getting them to sign up to the EPPP programme, which gave away their compensation for young players. And stupid idiots at the bottom of League One and League Two that needed the 250 grand voted for it. So teams in the Championship will go, well, I don't need this 250 grand. I'd rather have the compensation from having top players being sold for top money, right, out of my academy system, and so on and so forth. The bottom line is you've got this Trojan horse now that you can weaponise, that Rick Parry will weaponise, which is basically, in comes this lunatic, deranged, imbecile, independent regulator that's going to turn it upside down for you, Premier League, and you get 30% of your revenues taken away from you, or you do a deal with us now and you give us 20%.
Why do you think the regulator will be a lunatic and deranged?
Because I think that anyone that wants to be a regulator is deranged and a lunatic. Look at the buffoons in Ofcom, and look at the people in Ofgem, and look at these people that add no value to anybody and stifle and strangle and over-regulate industries. And this is what the fans are voting for, an over-regulated football industry. Well done. Wait and see what you get.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.